please rise for tonight's invocation. Tonight's invocation will be given by Councilman Kevin Boone, and if I can ask you to please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you so much for the many blessings you've given this community, Lord. We thank you for all the people in this town, Lord. Lead, guide, direct us, Lord, in all that we do, and be with this council, Lord, to make the decisions based on your will and to your glory, Lord. In your heavenly name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I had a great big moment.
I appreciate it.
I remember you said
Thank you, Kevin.
I appreciate that.
All right, first item on tonight's agenda will be to approve the minutes of the regular City Council meeting, the work session, and the agenda meeting, which was held on the 22nd of March. Do you have any changes, additions, or deletions to these minutes, Council?
Make a motion we approve as presented.
Second. I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as submitted. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes as submitted, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. Okay, motion carries. Mayor Sullivan, your report, please.
Thank you. First thing I want to mention is we did do a presentation about the Working Waterfront, the Restore grant that we have in the work session. We will be posting that information on our website and on social media. The council will hopefully at the next council meeting approve a scope of work and also the conceptual that you will see online. So I would ask people, if you have any comments on that, to please email me at the city or email one of your council members to let them know your comments, and for public input. We again have 2 more weeks for that before it is hopefully approved. The other thing I want to mention is a congratulations to Wes Boyette. Wes is in the audience. He is the compliance officer for our gas department. He has been recognized to be part of the Alabama Natural Gas Association board, so I want to congratulate Wes. I appreciate all he's doing and the members of the gas department are doing to bring that department into compliance and to do upgrades to our system. So thank you, Wes, for your representation. We appreciate it. And also want to mention is Telecommunications Week. So thank a dispatcher if you see them with the police department. You know, that's often the first person somebody talks to in the event of an emergency. It's people who often go unrecognized. So make sure you thank those folks if you do run into them, and just appreciate all they do. Also want to mention that we have a community shredding event this weekend. Most people know that Earth Day was canceled because of COVID, and but we are continuing with the community shredding. It will be a curbside event, and that is from 10 to 2 at the Fairhope Pier. So our recycling and sanitation folks will be down there to help you out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Next item on the agenda is public participation. If you would like to address the council on items 6 through 27, if you'll come to the podium, you'll be asked to state your name and address for the record, and you will be given 3 minutes. Item 5 is a public hearing, so we'll ask, if you are here to speak to item 5, we'll ask you to hold off until we get to that agenda item. So floor is open if you'd like to speak to items 6 through 27.
I can't see so good unless I'm looking down here.
I left mine at home.
Yeah, I know. Well, again, thanks for the 3 minutes. Are we clocking this, or?
Should be a clock down there.
I see. Okay, hasn't started yet. So again, thank you, Mayor. Thank you for council for 3 minutes. My name's Hayden Giddings, 554 Jan Drive, Fairhope, Alabama, 36532. I am currently the FSC board president for the Fairhope Soccer Club. And we wanted to spend a little bit of time making sure that we understand the lack of transparency, in my opinion, relative to, you know, how we operate as a club, what we do for the city relative to recreation. 10 years ago, we took over what is, before I was involved with soccer, a failing recreation program. And we're the only youth program in the city that currently manages both recreation and travel. As y'all may well know, throughout the country, travel is taking over, and it is compromising the integrity of rec. So I think we're ahead of the curve in regards to that. So I think we need to have a little more of a transparent conversation relative to, you know, what our financials look like and what our goals are. You know, just in this year alone, I've been president for 10 months with the help of a lot of folks behind me. You know, we've already put in substantial capital improvements that came from revenue from the club. For example, we put in a new surveillance system to mitigate risk at the club, because we did have people jumping the fence and taking our golf cart and riding over the fields and the grass. We also made capital improvements to the concession stand because we did have some issues with regards to customers complaining about dry food. We put a new sink in, we put a warmer in, and we also bought and purchased a video surveillance, a video camera system that not only can help develop both recreation and academy players, but also an avenue for aunts and uncles and grandparents who live outside of the city that are not able to come to the park to be able to view this. So we've made some capital improvements. One of the biggest capital improvements that we want to make is a shade pavilion. We've talked about it. I've had discussions with the mayor. So I think we need to have more transparency with regard to what we're doing as a club. We do have money in the bank. I'm not going to deny that. But that money is going completely back to the club, 100%. There are no dividends paid out to board members or other non-paid staff. We do have paid staff. One of the reasons I wanted to come up here as well is the Mobile Bay Classic. From what I've been communicated to, is our fee is going to increase from a rental standpoint by about 1,000%. It's going to go from $450 to $5,000, what's been told to me. I really think we need to table that. I'd like for consideration for the council to table that for a further discussion and let us complete this and figure out what our financial impact was to the city. The last tournament that we had, our financial impact was calculated at $1.4 million. I'm going to discount that 50% because we don't have the lodging capability. So I think our financial impact for every tournament is around $700,000 to $750,000, and I've got no time left. So, any questions from council?
Questions, Mr. Giddings, council? And if you have someone else that wants to speak to this,
I think I've got a handful.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Yes, sir.
My name's John Cockey, 307 Patland Drive. I am a board member, have been a board member since 2016, but I'm also currently the chair of the recreational side of our club. As Hayden said, we, as a Fairhope Soccer Club, took over Fairhope Soccer League, which was the recreational program, in 2010. Since that time, we have been trying to perfect what we're doing. Not always perfect. We've had some iterations here or there, but we think where we're at today is as great a model as you can get. Our players, which are currently 500 in the recreational side, from U3 to high schooler, have all the benefits that you could hope for in a soccer complex. Phenomenal facility. We have extraordinary volunteers. We have even better staff helping with us today. And it's all because we can couple our recreational program with our academy program. Those tournaments provide a significant source of revenue for the club to benefit every aspect of it. Every dollar that comes in one way, shape, or form, impacts our recreational side. Right now, we've got currently our largest group of U6 and U8 players that we've ever had in the club history. And those kids are directly getting coaching from our new director, who's probably the most qualified coach in the state of Alabama today. So what we're getting back to, and I understand the difficulty of us as far as the structure that we have in comparison to baseball, basketball, other things like that. But what we would like to do is to have this conversation with you all to explain how we operate, for you to come out to the fields and see what we do on a Saturday, Tuesday nights, Thursday nights. Because what it is, it's a great resource for the city. I wouldn't still be around here if we weren't doing a good job with it. I've heard stuff get brought up about our concessions. The concessions is utilized about 12 times a year. 11 of those times are for recreational purposes. The only time we use it for our academy is when we have the tournament come in. If we get money that comes in from any sort of concessions, it goes back into the concession. Our goal this year, and we've talked to several with the city about it, is to build a shade over the concession, because right now it's a scorcher all the time. We want to make it more appealing for our families to come up and utilize it. And again, I think what's been proposed, these fees coming in, are onerous and are going to impact if we can continue to do the job that we do. And I would hate to see us diminish the services that we give the citizens of Fairhope, the kids who want to play, because that's why we're here. That's the only reason you see all of us with the board and with the staff here and are willing to get up and talk about it, because we care. I mean, like I said, I wouldn't be sticking around today if it weren't for the passion that we have for doing the right thing for these kids. Happy to answer any questions you have, and I hope from tonight that we can table what you're proposing in this Resolution 25 and can enter a dialogue. I mean, there's nothing more than we want to do than to sit down with y'all and explain and have the conversation back and forth about how we work, how we want to partner with the city, and be fair with it.
Questions, council?
So when you say table, you don't want to do this contract, you're going to have the tournament?
No, we want to go with the original agreement that we signed on March 22nd. Because we signed the original when we submitted our reservation form for this. We signed it, sent in our check, as we calculated it, and have not heard back. I mean, it was only yesterday that we heard out that there might be an issue with this.
I want to understand that when you all signed that you were told that we were continuously, that was a fluid thing, and we were continuously working on something because we had some legal issues?
I mean, it's been fluid for 18 months. And so we went under the original agreement that we signed with the city, which was the original facilities use agreement, which set forth in there what our rates would be. So when just like we've done every other time, we fill out our application for the reservation and send our funds off.
So I have a question. So if we're planning on going into sports tourism, do you think what we have set up with you guys right now would continue to be a great foundation as we grow in sports tourism?
Under the existing that we have?
Do you
Yes.
think that-
Because we bring in here, again, we'll have almost 100 teams that show up next week. If you calculate how many participants that is, that's 1,600, 1,700 participants, families that come with it. You go walk around here on a Saturday when the tournament is here and see the kids downtown, going to the restaurants, shopping in the stores, staying overnight in what spaces we have. So I think, and we are partners in this. We very much appreciate and understand the investment that the city made in that complex. And we work tirelessly to make sure that we're good stewards of that facility. So the thing that gets us really is kind of getting blindsided 11 days before our tournament on it.
I think we've been in communication.
We've never seen this new agreement. Again, we signed off on the old one that we had, never had any sort of communication that things were changing. So again, what I want to get to is, again, if we can stick under our original agreement and sit down, and I would love to sit and chat with you about what we do.
So this is a one-time agreement for right now for this particular tournament. This is not something that has been created for future
Right.
tournaments. Tonight,
But-
that's what this is tonight.
But again, I think our opinion on this is that we do a great service for the city, that any money that comes in from that tournament, any money, benefits the recreation as much as anything that we do. Because if we do not have the tournament, we don't have a strong recreational program, period. The things that they're losing propositions on their own. An academy travel team can't suffice, and a recreational program, to the degree that we do it, can't suffice. So what do? We have to go raise our fees. Raise our fees 50%. And what do we do at that point? Then we have kids who aren't participating. A strong recreational program helps everything. It helps our club. It helps the schools when they start playing middle school and high school. That's what we assist with.
You keep saying it helps the club. The rec and the club are two different things.
The club is the steward of the recreational program. That is the, if you want to call it a confusion standpoint, yes, you can say because we have two aspects to what we do. But everything that we do is focused on the recreational side of the program. We've got 500 kids that show up, U3s to U8s. We hired a guy from New York to come down to be our new club director, who was coaching our 3-year-olds just this afternoon. Had a parent say, "Where'd y'all get this guy? This is unbelievable." First-time player, 3 years old. That's what these tournaments and the success that we've had with them allows us to do. And we're not talking about the city benefit. I know the mayor's been out there and seen when a tournament comes through. People everywhere. And we're keeping it all in. We're not utilizing Daphne in any degree.
how many out-of-town teams are coming to these
90.
tournaments? So, I mean, to me, and I'm just throwing this out there, I mean, the 91 out-of-town teams, that's where the city's making their money off of lodging revenue and sales tax. I mean, the difference between whether the fees would be $1,000 or under the old plan or $5,000 under the new plan, I don't know what the numbers would work out to. I mean, that's kind of minor compared to, I'm saying, I see the point that the soccer club is making. We're talking about trying to increase the fees to get up to $5,000, but where we're really making the money is on these 91 out-of-town teams coming in and staying in Fairhope and eating, shopping, and lodging. I mean, I think that with everything that has gone, well, I don't know if that was a year ago or so that we had the issues with the soccer club. I mean, I certainly feel like we should have had them closer in the mix. And I wasn't involved in drafting this. So
Yeah, I was going to put a little bit of that into perspective. So
Okay.
what was proposed, the field agreement, what was being pushed actually by prior administration was something similar to what Auburn had, and that was $250 per field per day. If you just go with that alone, 9 fields is, I believe, $2,200 a day. And Foley charges $3,000 a day for their facility in recognition of the fact that you are helping the rec league, organizing the rec league, running the rec league. Our fee, the way we came up with that $5,000 was $1,000 a day, so less than half what Auburn charges, a third of what Foley charges. You know, the city, having a facility, a sports facility, every city that owns these things, they lease them. People lease them, and they go out, and then people host events. So we felt like it was a pretty good deal to lease it. Now, and the reason that we're leasing it is to try to recover some of the costs. Not trying to pay for the facility. At this rate, we would never pay for the millions of dollars. But to pay for the people that have to go out there and cut the grass every week, and pay for it. We included the lining of the fields, which would have been $900 of that if it didn't have to be lined multiple times. The rental of the fields themselves. We're not taking any of the parking. We're allowing you to take the parking revenue, the concession revenue. You're getting the whole facility for $1,000 a day and $20 per team. I want to remind you, you have $130,000 in $140,000 in. I was going to be conservative on that number. $140,000 in your bank account. So when you have these tournaments, how much of that money is coming back? We're just asking for some monies to offset some of our costs. It's going to come nowhere near to paying for.
But sir, as we said earlier,
I'm still talking, sir. I gave you the floor, and I want the floor now. You know, I would question, Hayden, you're a good friend of mine, but $750,000 economic impact. Maybe to Daphne, we have very few hotel rooms that are taken up by these people that stay here for soccer tournaments. If you go down and ask, I've done it, you go down and ask the hotels how many of these are taken up by soccer players and families, it's not because they don't want to, they just don't. They're at 90-something% occupancy most of the time. So I would challenge those numbers, and I would defend what we're charging based on the fact that we just need to pay for some of our costs, and we're a third of the cost of the Foley facility, and we're probably half the cost of Auburn. That's all we're asking. And you're charging how much per team to be here?
$500.
$500 per team. So that's times, if you have 90 teams, that's $45,000 in income, not counting parking, not counting concession. I don't know if you do parking and gate. Do you charge for admission and parking, or just
admission?
Just once coming in, okay. So you're making money there. And I know you have costs. I know you have to pay a lot of officials. I know you have a lot of costs. You're paying somebody to manage the tournament. But taking, 11% to just help offset our cost, I didn't think was unreasonable. To put it in our perspective.
But if I may.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Since we moved to the Manley complex, the club has invested $160,000 of our assets into that complex. Goals, concrete, concession equipment, constant. And so the 140 that you see in there is for that purpose. Like I said, we have had specific discussions with members about shade structure that is lacking there. As I said earlier, concessions cover that's there. So we are about putting it back in. But as you know, it's been an interesting 18 months for all of us, and nothing was getting done during that time, period.
Well, the elephant in the room then, if you're going to say you're going to put all that money back in there, a lot of the money that you bring in through these tournaments, it's also to pay people's salaries. You have several paid people. None of the other rec leagues, none of the leagues in the city have any paid staff. So that's...
Well,
And
sorry, no, excuse me. I didn't mean to interrupt. But just sitting here kind of listening to the way this is playing out, obviously the biggest confusion is the combination of rec and travel together. I mean, no other sport that we have does that, and that creates the issue. If this was simply a travel team, we would say without a doubt you're paying the fee and that's it. And I think as we want to grow the sports tourism enterprise, we would like to host baseball tournaments. The improvements we're talking about to the fields, we would like to host them. And even though we do have a rec league, that would be a strictly a travel tournament, and they would pay whatever the ultimate decision is on what those costs are for those fields for that day. The issue that I have right here is, I have concerns over changing the agreement 11 days before your tournament. I did not know that we were this close, didn't appreciate that we were this close to that, or that we had already signed an agreement. So I have a little heartburn on our end for that change. The second thing that gives me a little concern from a city standpoint is the legality of treating one group differently than the other. And this goes back to a year ago or maybe a year and a half ago when I first got involved in this, in discussing the fee structures and the rental agreements with the city, is that if we, and I know it makes a difference to you guys because you are kind of operating hand in hand with the rec league, but I don't know what difference that makes from a legal perspective if we don't charge you what we charge everybody else. But at the same time, if we're wanting to charge you $5,000 and you're wanting to erect a $5,000 shade structure on our property for our benefit, there's a lot of moving pieces to this. I don't know that an answer, a good answer, can be constructed.
I think
tonight.
our attorneys can answer some of those concerns. We were in discussions last week, and I believe they probably were aware of this. It's actually been going on for a while, maybe more in earnest last week. So it's a little bit more than 11 days ago. Do you want to touch on that, Chris?
Yeah, happy to.
On some of the councilman's concerns?
Happy to. So first, it's my understanding that there was a application that was signed for, but it's subject to the city's approval. So just because they submitted the application doesn't mean that it was agreed and approved, and the terms specifically say subject to approval of the city, just to be clear, first of all. Secondly, just as a matter of law, which you can appreciate, there are some significant concerns with giving a benefit to a private organization using public property that is thereby potentially profiting off of that use. And so my understanding is there's been some questions to the board about separation of funds and accounting of funds based on prior understandings of tournaments and the amount of fees that we're talking about, potentially 6 figures bringing into a tournament. What they've outlined is some great improvements to the park and the facility. But in terms of line itemization of those, there has not been some transparency on this side about what exactly is going toward the development of the park, what is allocated for rec, and what is separate from the club. And I think part of the problem is it's intermingled. And that is, from a legal perspective, very concerning for a rec department, for the city, for operating through a volunteer structure, but also intermingling paid coaches, paid staff, and that sort of thing. So, just as a matter of law, that's why there were some concerns about the fee structure. We had some discussions last week about with a representative,
and looking at the big picture of what Foley and some of the organizations were charging, what the potential revenue was from the firm, keeping in mind, I mean, again, concessions, parking, I mean, those are substantial contributions that they're collecting in terms of financial impact to the organization that they get to keep under this agreement. And so the idea was, let's set an agreement in place trying to offset and recoup some of the costs by the city for the maintenance of the facility, keeping in mind what Foley and some of the other facilities are charging, allow them to have the benefit, but for a long-term discussion, needing some transparency on both sides about this is rec, this is club, let's separate them, and then we can go forward moving under a game plan where everyone's working together and it is mutually beneficial.
And let me also point out, Councilman Robinson, that, back when these discussions started a long time ago, there was the discussion of whether or not we have franchise agreements when you have a private entity, or some, if a coach is using a ball field or not. We could have gone to a franchise agreement, which would require 20% of gross revenues. So this 5,000 versus 20% of gross revenues of this, there's no comparison. That was also the benefit. I mean, trying to give the soccer community a fair deal. That's some of what we're thinking.
Yeah, we're trying to get a fair deal, but we want to also set a standard or a foundation for future, is what we're trying to do. So nobody is against, trust me, I love kids. Nobody's against recreation at all. But we're talking about a twain or intertwining of things that is very convoluted, and we have to get it organized if we're going to go forward in the future for the city.
And I agree.
That's just the basic, that's all.
Yes, sir. No, I agree. And again, I come back to the soccer is a different animal in all cities. I mean, you just can't compare the two. When you come down to the coaching standpoint, if we could find local volunteer coaches to provide the same, we would do it. The problem is you can't find them. And so what we're trying to do is we searched high and low to find the best we could get. And again, the priority for why we did that was to grow the rec. Plain and simple. The board we have today is focused on growing the rec. We've had as much turmoil inside our own club over the past 2 years trying to get it right. Because before we were probably more academy focused, paid focused. That's not the case today. The board we have today is built upon doing what is in the best interest of the city and doing what's in the best interest of our recreational players. If we do right by them, we do right by everybody else. And we're not trying to get a free ride. That's why I said there is nobody taking distribution from this. We pay people because we have to pay people. And we're fortunate that we do have the tournaments and the facilities to do that. We're willing to do our fair share. It's evident since we spent $160,000 to do that. And we're committed to it. But what we don't want to be is to be hamstrung and to sit here and pay a crazy fee that just doesn't make it worthwhile for us to run a recreational program. Period. That's what it boils down to.
And
We do a lot of, we do a ton of work to make the recreation work. Jackie Boyer, it's a full-time job for her. She doesn't get paid a dime from it. She does it because she loves the kids, loves the program, and loves the club. Period. She was out there coaching tonight. So the folks that are here, we're committed. Again, we're not asking for something for nothing. But we do think we do a lot for what we get. And we do provide an impact. The economic impact, Mr. Burrell, I'm not sure. I know it's substantial. It's hard to quantify with it. And I think in the future, with the sports tourism wanting to be a big thing, that working with clubs who can effectively do it and run them is the key to it. Y'all don't want to get involved with it, the minutia of running it.
I just think we're going to move on. I think it's a small price to pay to use a world-class facility for trade. That's just my opinion. That's what it boils down to me. If we were charging market rate, it'd be one thing. I don't think we're charging market rate for a 9-field sports facility. So, council, do y'all have any more comments? If not, we're going to move on with public participation. Any more questions? No, I appreciate you coming.
As well, thank you for your time.
I appreciate what y'all do. Y'all welcome to stick around. We'll have more debate, I'm sure.
And you won't have to wait long to have it. How are you, sir?
Doing great. How are you?
John Gray. I live at 770 Big Canoe Run in the Waters off of 181. Good evening, gentlemen. Madam Mayor, hope you're doing well. I'm here to talk about the soccer program. I am a parent. I have 2 children in the soccer program. We came up through club, also into academy program. As a matter of fact, they're waiting in the car for me to take them out there tonight, so I'm going to speak in my New York speed here. You've got really an operation that's being run for free on behalf of the city. I look at my clients in Foley and Orange Beach, Daphne, and what they're doing. They would love to have their city out of that process. They would love to take that overhead and those RSA entitled employees out of that program and have somebody else step up to take on that overhead and that freight. This program is excellent. It's the reason that I asked to be a part of the board when they had an opening come up, because I love what they've done. I don't participate in those kinds of things, but I wanted in my heart to do this because I have seen firsthand what they have done with these kids and how much they've poured into it. I'm sitting in the back of the room and I'm almost in shock that there seems to be a problem with the fact that you have a program running a program for the city and they have not only a positive balance sheet, but a reserve fund. And that's a liability now. Guys, that's shocking. I represent clients like you all over the state. People would be blessed to have that. And more importantly, that money is being reinvested into your programs. Mr. Burrell, you're looking to try to recoup some expenses from an investment the city made or started planning on almost a decade ago. But yet you're robbing Peter to pay Paul because they're already investing the funds they're going to raise back into your facilities and your programs that you're offering your taxpayers. You're going to redistribute those funds. We're now going to get into the redistribution of wealth by taking something from a program that's doing well and we're going to send it over to a program that's maybe not doing as well. Maybe what they need to do is offer classes to the other programs that aren't doing well, get some professional development on board to make them do better. I think that the concern here that I keep hearing is this private entity. It's not a private entity, it's a non-profit. There are no profits. If there are, the federal government's going to have a big problem with them. And if in your contract you want to stipulate that all the funds are restricted to expenditures in the facilities, that's what I've heard they're already doing. That's smart in my ears. Restrict the funds to an investment for the benefit of the taxpayers in Fairhope that go to the facilities. They're already doing it, but if you want it collateralized, put it in the agreement. As to the question about fee and disparity in fees, I don't think there's a problem with the disparity in fees. You have in government what's called a performance agreement. You execute them all the time. They're giving you a performance agreement now. And as a result of that, they are due a discount or a fee to be paid by the city. You don't pay them a fee. There's not a line item in your budget that goes to the Fairhope Soccer Club. You provide maintenance at the fields for everything from high school all the way across the board to Texans. Everybody uses the fields. But what you're getting is a benefit because they're providing the rec program that you're not having to pay for. And it's got a name for itself and it's got a brand. I wouldn't take that away. I would continue to foster that. And the last thing I'd say is this: when people bring in a tournament, and Joe, you made a good point just a minute ago, they're a week out. They didn't have an opportunity to build this into the budget. They didn't have an opportunity to back this into the fees. They're now, in the face of accepting one agreement, being given a second agreement to say, hey, we're going to jack your price up $4,500. I hear you when you say you may think it's a fair fee. I'm not going to disagree with you. That's a meritorious debate, but not a week before the event happens. And in light of that, the Bluff is being rented to the theater organization, of which I'm also a part of, for $2,500 for a week. Has there even been a study in Fairhope to determine what is the commensurate fee? Not what others charge, but what you're charging for facilities within the city to other like-kind organizations, by the way, who do provide no service in the city rec department or to the taxpayers in the city of Fairhope. And finally, the last thing I'd say is the rates that you've quoted, some of those clients, or some of those people are my clients, those are public rates. If I come in as a private promoter and I want to promote an event on their field, I will pay that published rate. But if the city of Foley promotes that event, do you know what they pay for their rental rate? Nothing. This is as close to the city of Fairhope promoting this event as you're going to get until you put your money in it, because they're putting every penny of the proceeds back into your city infrastructure and your city programs that are benefiting your taxpayers. I seriously, guys, I don't have a problem getting the best deal for the city. I absolutely think there should be a mutual deal. But a week before the event, this needs to be tabled, there needs to be a discussion, and I would encourage a work session that actually invites these people, not just the gentlemen lawyers and the other teams that may or may not have had concern. Invite the folks to come to a work session like you did today with USA and have a sit-down. Thank you very much generously for your
Mr. Gray,
time.
You did, you
Yes, sir.
mentioned that you said all the money goes back into the facility. I happen to see some of the expenses. And so all of the revenues from basically a tournament like this goes into their budget as revenue. Is it not true that in that budget, some of those expenses go to pay coaches?
They do.
That's going into the program, but not necessarily the facility.
Sir, I
Is it also
consider
true
it all,
that-
I'll answer your question, thank you. I believe that it goes into the infrastructure, which is what I said is part of the facilities, and you don't have infrastructure without a program. Your facility is a field of grass without a soccer program, with all due respect.
Did you, that's not what you said, but that's okay.
It is.
So we could get into semantics. Do you, are any of those funds used to pay for them participating in other tournaments outside of this facility and travel costs as well?
For players, no.
For coaches?
I believe coaches are paid stipends to perform their duties, yes. They should be.
I believe they're also pays for their travel costs as well.
From the parents? Yeah, the funds don't come from, that's what I'm saying. You guys don't have all the facts. We pay, I as a parent pay $600 to cover the travel cost for wherever our coaches have to go. There's no money coming from the rec league.
Okay.
And again, with all due respect, you're going to make this decision tonight, not having all the answers. I would humbly ask that you table it for a week, and let's have this discussion about next year when they can actually budget for your increase, gentlemen. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Guess what I'm here to talk about? And I'm a parent and not a politician, and I have notes. So,
Is the clock working down there?
yeah, and it started. My name's Tom Gullidge, 511 Cromwell. I have coached rec soccer for 8 seasons. I've watched many young ladies develop through the rec program, then into the challenge program, and ultimately into the academy level, which some people like to call the tournament level. While the Fairhope Soccer Club is developing players, they're also developing parents, like myself, to become coaches who see their children through rec, through challenge, and academy. The Fairhope Soccer Club is a prime example of a very successful public-private partnership. It appears changes are being made to this relationship without a true understanding of the relationship. It's inconceivable to believe that the Fairhope Soccer Club, the club that runs the rec program for this city, would have to pay more than a club from Daphne, Foley, or even Florida to use the fields in our own city. My fear is the investment that has been made in the complex will go squandered by this misunderstanding. That's your investment and our investment. A one-size-fits-all approach to facility use agreements is not in anyone's best interest. We have already said there is a difference here, and it's been noted that there is a difference with the Fairhope Soccer Club in the fact that we provide a service to the city and run the rec program. Successful public-private partnerships work when there's good communication between those serving the public and private citizens who care and have a vested interest in the project. That's what you get when you get parents that start out with 3-year-olds that work through the program and ultimately become coaches through the challenge and academy levels. It's the parents and the people who care. I'm done.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So let me chime in again, and I'll try to be real brief. I have a great amount of appreciation for anybody that volunteers their time through the different recreational opportunities in our city. I spend a lot of my time there. I'm actually doing a baseball game in 30 minutes. It doesn't look like I'm going to make it to.
Sorry.
That's okay. But the rub here is it seems like you guys are asking for an opportunity that that legally I don't know that we're able to give you, because even though you do operate rec as part of the soccer operation, I don't know that that entitles the group to free use of the fields and the opportunity to make money off of those fields. That I think is part of the problem. And I know the gentleman before you mentioned that the city doesn't have to pay the recreation department to run the soccer complex. That's true, but to my knowledge, we don't pay any of the other sports either. I mean, baseball is a volunteer board, football is a volunteer board, basketball is also. So every recreational sport we have in Fairhope is operated by a group of volunteers that run their finances, that run the field usage, that run it all, and they don't make any money off those fields on their own. And so while I agree that there is a major problem here in that I don't want to shortchange soccer at all, because I do have an appreciation for what you guys do for the city, but at the same time, I don't know, I don't think going forward that we can allow the group just free usage of the field. And I don't know that $450, I think, which is what I think you mentioned was the original price in this agreement. My recommended solution for this particular tournament is that maybe we work something out where we credit you guys the construction of the shade, for the concession stand, if that's even possible. Because I don't know that, like I said 20 minutes ago, that the best answer is going to come out of tonight because of where we are in all this. But it is a long-term problem that we have to get answered, and I don't think it's going to be one that anybody is truly happy with, because I do think there are some legalities that are going to prevent us from doing exactly what you're asking. But I don't know. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would say this, I don't think, and I have to say that I'm speaking for myself, I can't say that I'm speaking for the board at this point, but I would have to say that I think most everybody can agree the 450 and the 475 is we understand that that's probably low. We need to have a clear, open dialogue. We want to open it. We want to show you what we're doing, and provide the opportunity in a business meeting session to tell you the pieces of this that you don't know, to explain to you what we are doing with rec, and to explain that there's obviously a misunderstanding that coaches are being paid to travel, and coaches are, yes, they are, but that's not coming from the rec money. That's the parents of children in the academy program are paying for that. So there is a separation. I know there's been a lot of work done and been questions asked to separate the books and different balance sheets and profit and loss statements, and that's been done. There's continuing to be work done on that. This club wants to be open and provide what was agreed to 10 years ago. I go back to that statement. It's a public-private partnership. These can work for the betterment of everybody, and I think that's but there has to be good communication in that, and I think that's really what's lacking here is the communication. So, any other questions?
No.
I just wanted to end on this. Hayden and I spoke on Sunday. No one in all God's name is attacking any volunteer or any parent in any situation. I think everybody here is trying to get to a win-win situation is what you're speaking of. And we're willing to do that. Tonight is to get through this tournament and then sit down, because we did offer, and I keep hearing that we did not offer people to come to the table, but we did. We made phone calls, people were out of town, it didn't happen. And that's the honest truth, okay? To talk about this, people from the board, okay? So it wasn't that we're just throwing this on anybody. That presentation, that opportunity was there. Two, everything that you all do, we appreciate. But going forward, we have to get a delineation. Right now, it is not seamless. It is twanged. And once again, that is the issue. There is no other issue as far as how good you're doing, the kids, we love you. That is the issue. And so I hear you in all God's honesty, but we have to go forward to create a good contract going forward, to create these tournaments, to create a foundation. We have to be legal.
Absolutely.
That's it.
And I'll say this, I don't think the board feels attacked per se. I think there is an openness and willingness to find a middle ground, and I think it can be found. I don't think there's any doubt, and I appreciate the council's listening to us. We might have one more.
Can I have 30 seconds on this, Jack?
I'll allow it.
Thank you, sir. Hey, Corey, good to see you again. I don't need my glasses now. But in all due respect, we got the first communication to talk about this on Tuesday of last week, so 6 days ago. So and then again, we had spring break and folks were out of town, and I made the effort with respect to the mayor, she requested as well. So we did have only 6 days to talk about the new fee, which you've never seen. So there's I actually did it in 18. So any questions? You guys good on that? All right, we have one more, I think. Yeah.
Quite good, because I'm not going to be long.
Okay.
Matt Miller, 102 Beaver Dam Road, Fairhope, Alabama. So when we talk about coaches being paid, I'm one of those people, I guess-ish. I have a job that I would much rather get paid for because it's a higher rate. I do get pennies on the dollar because it's part of the club. So it wasn't very long ago that I was told my kid wasn't going to be able to play soccer, and my son, who's 10, and my daughter, who's 6, they love soccer. So through different conversations, I said, whatever I can do, I'll do to let them play soccer, because they want to play soccer with their buddies. Some of them are asleep in the back, or two, but they're their buddies. That's the three amigos. They're besties. They want to play soccer with their team. A lot of people left and went to another county or another city. I didn't want my kids to do that. I wanted my kids to play for Fairhope Soccer Club. So I stood up and said, let me do whatever I can do after I said no multiple times. What can I do for our kids to play soccer together? Because I do not, they will play against each other when they get older, and they might not play together forever. But you know what? I don't want my kid to be wearing a jersey that says Daphne or anything else, and then he gets into high school, and they have a picture with my kid wearing a jersey that's not his city. So to me, that's huge. So that's why I stepped up and said, let's do what we can do to play ball here. So do you think I made much money? Do you think I literally, like, my life got better from making money coaching soccer? If you do, then again, we need to revisit it. But at the end of the day, it didn't at all, at all. It cost me more money traveling to the fields. And when y'all say coaches get paid to travel, well, what if they're spending more money to travel to the place they're playing? You know, there's a lot of outliers that I don't think everybody agrees on, but I think the water is muddied, and we need to have that conversation, because honestly, the different conversations I've heard from one side of the room to the other, it's different languages. So if we could get in a room, I'm all about conversation. If we could get in a room and we could discuss a certain thing and it not be a he said, she said, I think it could get to where it needs to be. But as it's somebody's on vacation, somebody's doing this, that's just, I teach my son, like, you don't point a finger. Like, that's what we're doing. We're just like, oh, it's his fault, it's her fault, you know. So in my opinion, we're all adults. We can figure this out. There is a good transition to figuring it out. But if we're pointing at somebody being wrong or somebody, number one, if those two kids in the back, they're half asleep, we're doing it, they'd be running laps. Like, that's the last thing in the world that I'm going to provoke or have on my team. So as a Fairhope family, Fairhope team, shouldn't we be putting that same principle together for our kids to see, like, it's not his fault, her fault? I'm quadruple zero, so I know I'm out of time, so I gotta stop, but my thing is, Fairhope's an amazing community. We all love it. Everybody wants the best for it. Let's just figure it out and make an example for everybody else. And questions?
So back to the part about you getting paid. Nobody's faulting anybody for getting paid, and I know that people are paid various things. You're not all paid the same, so somebody may be paid a small amount. I think there are other people paid.
They're all small amounts.
They're all small amounts?
Except one person we brought in that's an All-American at South Alabama that is a Hall of Famer.
I understand. But you're not all paid the same amounts, because there's somebody paid tens of thousands of dollars. Is that fair to say?
One person.
One person is paid.
One person that we brought in to make
So
that
our
thing better.
concern, when we talk about that, it's not to get into your business or how much you're paying and to run them off, because we realize that you guys want that and you're willing to pay for that and you put money into that. But you got to remember what some of these conversations were. There's legalities to that. I mean, and there's legalities to the use of our facilities that we have to keep in mind. Those don't go away. I mean, for instance, if somebody wanted to use any of our other facilities and they're being paid, we have franchise agreements, and that's 20% of the gross revenue, 20%. So when
would
we come up
using
with it-
facilities be part of actually using facilities, or when they're closed? Does a closed facility have anything to do with it? Because a lot of times, I mean, I think y'all know.
Ask that question one more time, sorry.
So at Manly, those fields, the way they were done, they're closed a lot, right?
Right.
Due to drainage.
Right.
So is that Foley fields you mentioned were $3,000 or something?
$3,000 per day,
Okay. So, and how many fields are there?
10, I believe, or 12.
Four.
12,
Is it 12?
12 fields.
Okay. And those are, every day they can be used. So how often are the Fairhope fields shut down? Not in a bad way.
No, we're talking about, we're talking about tournaments right now, right?
Yeah.
Well, but
We're-
they
I'm just gonna
still
stay
be
on track
closed down
here.
on tournament.
We're talking about tournaments. I don't want to keep, we're talking about tournaments.
I got you, tournaments.
Tournaments.
Yep.
Volunteerism and then tournaments and coaching are two separate things. We're trying to separate the two. That's it. I just want to keep emphasizing that. That's all we're trying to do.
I think, John, to put into perspective, what we had proposed to pay, to charge you versus what you're bringing in, knowing, you have a cash balance of, I said 130, 140,000, so is that money actually going back? What is that dedicated to? What is that money dedicated to?
Is it being spent? And the way I look at it is, if you want a business running any part of anything, that money's in an account, right? It's not being spent on random things. It's
Yeah, but we
there.
just want some of that money to offset the cost to the city. We're just saying, that you're bringing in that much. We could just go down there and operate the concession stand ourselves, or operate or we could go down there and charge for parking and send some city employees down there to collect for that, and we would make our $5,000. I mean, we'd make $5,000. We're just asking to offset some of the costs of the maintenance that we're having to pay all these employees for the use of those facilities. That's it.
Yeah, and
We're not charging you full, I mean, we're not saying, look, you made $60,000, everything that you're not putting back into rec, we want all that money. Because you're using that money for club soccer.
so does that money go to just everything that is spent, or does it go towards the facilities that earn the money? Like general fund, or are we talking about a fund for Manly Field?
Well, it can go back into the general fund, but we're spending the money.
General fund scares
Hey, we're spending the money to mow those fields every day. You don't want to know what Pat White spends to maintain that facility. I mean, it's tens of thousands of dollars, tens.
Is that annually, or is that,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
That would be annually.
Okay.
I know I'm past my time.
Yeah.
Thank y'all so much for your
Thank you.
time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is there anyone else? And this is for all agenda items, I want to remind everyone.
Yes, sir. Madam Mayor, good evening. Distinguished board, good evening. So I would just like to emphasize that if you go to any other fields, been up to Montgomery, played in a cow pasture, come down here and play in a pretty good field. I think the board is doing a great job putting that money back into the fields. These two gentlemen here, they started when they were 3 years old, from tots to rec, and they moved up to the academy. There's no distinguish from either other club other than these guys travel. Look at the people that's pulled in the rec at one point in time, they'll be moving up. So I would like for you guys to keep that in your thought process here. It's not two separate clubs. It's one club with kids that have progressed skills-wise a little bit better than the people coming in from rec starting out. As they get better, of course you want to send them into a challenging environment. You won't get that at rec. You mentioned Foley. What team does Foley have? I've never seen Foley at one tournament. The city of Foley.
I don't keep up with Fairhope.
I understand,
the Foley,
but when they
Foley
put on this
soccer star.
Fairhope jersey and they go to Foley, they represent Fairhope. They go to Montgomery, they represent Fairhope. That's my point. I understand board, rec, academy. That money that they put into the rec, I want to say the academy, or the whole program, goes back into the fields. And if you ask me, I would like to see that continue so they can get the training skills, the static training aids and things that you see other soccer clubs have. We got to get there. Thank you very much.
And I'm thinking here through the things that have been said for the last 30 minutes. And so, you know, I'm with you on the idea that you are paying part of your dues by upgrading facilities, by buying nets and goals and all those things. And I think that's right. I think that is part of your contribution. But as I sit here thinking about that, we do that at the baseball board. I mean, we build batting cages with the rec money. We build.
Where does the money come from? So the city builds the batting cages,
No.
right?
We paid to build the batting cages.
Okay.
The baseball board did with money generated from baseball revenue, from concession stand. And we had people volunteer their time to come up there and, you know,
Exactly.
I think the city comes up and helps with maybe laying the pad down or maybe putting the lights up. But that money is generated through the rec league. And so, you know, and I'm not talking about a $20,000 batting cage versus $100,000 in nets. I know there's a difference. And
Well, let me ask you this, sir.
please.
What happens if there is no soccer? Academy dissolves,
I think that'd be
rec
terrible.
dissolves.
And let me ask you this question.
You didn't answer my question first.
Well, I think it'd be terrible. I think it would be awful. I mean, I think losing any recreation sport in the city of Fairhope would be an absolute disaster. That's my answer to
I
that
agree.
question. But my second question is, and I guess it's the question that we should have asked from the very beginning, you know, if we know that 475 is too little and we think that 5,000 is too much, what is the appropriate amount from the soccer club standpoint?
Conversation, deep conversation. But it's all about the kids. Whatever decision is made from you guys, the mayor, and the soccer board, it's going to affect the kids, either negatively or positively. We all want a positive outcome out of this. Because they're the beneficiaries of it. It ain't the money. You mentioned hotels. It's more than hotels in Fairhope, sir. McDonald's, Wendy's, all that's in that general location. I would even recommend if we have the little food trucks for Fairhope, the small business people that runs the little game video things, invite them there for the tournaments. It's only one tournament that we give, and it should be a banger. Should be a
And
banger.
if we did, they would have to pay a franchise fee, which is 20% of gross legally. They'd be required to do that.
Okay, well, my time is up, but please think about the kids, sir. Ma'am? Oh, I'm sorry, Adrian Anderson, 101 Pemberton Loop, Fairhope, Alabama. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Floor is still open for agenda items 6 through 27.
Try and stick a fork in this if I can. Bob Keyser, 19213 Fairfax Drive. I'm president of the rec board. The field use agreement has been under construction for 13 months now. I wrote the first draft of it on the 12th of March of last year, and it's gone through, I believe, 11 iterations, and we just haven't gotten there yet. And one of the big issues is, what do you charge? As we continue to go through those iterations, certainly we've got to figure out what those fees should be. However, I think springing this on the club a week before is probably a little hasty. There was an agreement that was used for the tournament that they held in October of last year. Representing the rec board, I'd encourage us to utilize that agreement to let them get through this tournament, and then sit down and have those discussions where we figure out what's the appropriate form for this field use agreement, so that we get it right going forward. And there's obviously concerns beyond just soccer. From the rec board perspective, we've got to be thinking about football, we've got to think about lacrosse, baseball, softball. We've got everybody that we've got to be concerned with how we treat with respect to the field use agreement. But I think doing this on very short notice is probably not what we want to do, and I think we ought to be using the agreement that's already out there. Thank you for your time, unless you've got questions.
Hey, Bob, is that October agreement the one that they've signed already, or the one that they submitted?
Yeah, it's the same agreement.
Yeah, Bob, I'm going to just point out, because, you and I, Corey, Chris sat down, we had a teleconference, and you and I, we had sat down numerous times. This has been going on for several weeks. And obviously, I mean, you've been as ingrained as Fairhope soccer as anyone. And that'll be a good time to point out to the soccer community, I'm not opposed to soccer. I think what the gentleman just spoke about, what happens if it goes away, is a concern to all of us. We don't want that to happen. I'm simply trying to recover some of the cost that it takes to maintain a facility. And if we can't do it with a huge tournament like this, I don't know when you can do it. I personally don't think it's that much of a detriment. But when Mr. Keyser and I had sat down, we had a $100 per field lining fee, which he was willing to agree to. That's $900. We had a $20 per team entry fee at 100 teams. That's $2,000. And he wanted 50% because of you being a nonprofit. That's $1,000. And then, correct me, Bob, was in that agreement, was it $25 per field or $50 per field?
It was $50 per field.
$50 a field.
It was
times three. I got the math here. Times 9 fields is $450. Times 3 days is $1,350. Divide that by 2 for a nonprofit is $675. We are at that number, which I believe you would admit, Mr. Keyser, that you were in agreement with, was $25.75.
The field lining was if it was required, if the fields weren't already marked, because it's a field layout fee.
Yeah.
So and that's not my call or your call, that's up to Pat and his folks. If
Right.
the fields are already laid out, then they don't do that.
Maybe not for the sake of my argument, if it was, and that includes no lighting, that's $25.75. So we went back, and Councilman Martin and I after we reviewed it, we thought, man, it's just not making up much. So the numbers are not, if you look at the numbers that you agreed with, are not that far apart either.
Those are numbers that we discussed. I didn't say this was a good number. We never got to an agreement. We haven't gotten to an agreement over 13 months.
We did as recently as Friday, I believe, we were trying to get to that.
We've been trying for a long time. I'll grant you that.
We're all trying. I mean, I want everybody to know, we are trying in good faith to do this.
And again, I think it's appropriate that those fees get fixed, because I don't think we're doing it right.
Yeah.
But I also don't think it's right that we do it at the last minute.
And
that's
to the
my only
gentleman's
point.
comment that Fairhope would get Daphne would get our facility less than our own club. No, if this was what we did for you guys, I promise you that would be precedent setting for anyone wanting to use the facility.
Other questions for me?
You know, ironically, council, if you were to just do it the way we did it and say if nonprofit, and you give 50% off, you're right back at that $2,500 number. Just simple math.
Yeah, I don't think the proposed fees are unreasonable. But I kind of agree with Bob. I feel like the perception or the feeling is that it was kind of sprung on them at the last minute. It's spring break last week, and I don't know.
Well, this was discussed at the rec board meeting last month. It was discussed slightly. We were trying to come up with the entire field use agreement, which centered on this. We had a meeting at city attorney's office, what's that been, two weeks ago? 2 or 3 weeks ago, and then we met last week. Mr. Keys has been involved in these conversations, chairman of the rec board,
But again, it's important to note, I'm chairman of the rec board, I'm not part of the soccer club. So in our conversation, Corey, when you called me the other day and said, well, you need to fill out a new application, and I said, I'm not part of the club. I don't have an application to fill out. So it's, again. Okay. Anything else for me?
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate y'all. Thank you.
I think it needs to be stated that the Fairhope has a Fairhope rec board, which covers all the recreations, and then the soccer league has a rec board, which covers the soccer recreation. That's the way I understand it. So there's two. Every time you bring up rec board, or we do the rec, it's not the Fairhope Recreation Board. It's the soccer recreation.
But I am the Fairhope Recreation.
Correct. It's like two separate, I'm looking at it as two separate entities.
They are, absolutely.
Right. I just want to make sure everybody out there understands that when it was brought up that they run the rec, or they're making the money for the rec, and the rec is doing this, it's not the Fairhope Recreation Board, it is the soccer recreation.
More time, Jack, real quick, 15 seconds?
no, we're good. I'm sorry, we got to stop sometime tonight. All right. Anyone else have anything else on the agenda they'd like to discuss? Okay, we'll close public participation and move to council comments. Councilman Martin.
No comment.
Councilman Robinson.
No comment.
You've already missed your game. You can comment.
I missed it now.
Yeah, I had 8 o'clock.
Councilman Boone.
No comment.
I just have 4 or 5 things I'd like to mention. I'm kidding. All right, item 5 on tonight's agenda is a public hearing. This is an ordinance to amend zoning ordinance number 1253, a request to repeal and replace ordinance number 1664, known as the Clump PUD, property of Gayfer Village Partners. Is generally, I got some glasses I can see through, generally located on the west side of State Highway 181 between Gayfer Road and Fairhope Avenue. The parcel contains 75.93 acres, more or less. Mr. Simmons?
Thank you, Councilman.
Are we supposed to introduce these?
Yeah, can I have somebody introduce the ordinance, please?
I'll introduce it.
All right.
Thank you, Council. CZ 20.10 was heard by the Planning Commission in January, December and January. And you might be familiar with this site located at the northwest corner of Fairhope Avenue and Highway 181. In 2019, this was a conditional annexation into the city that came in as a PUD, and what we're looking at tonight is an amendment to that. Some of the site data is, as you said, it's 75.93 acres. Developer is Gayfer Village Partners. Mr. Scott Hutchinson is here with Goodwin Mills and Kaywood as the engineer of record. The ordinance being amended or proposed to be amended is 1664 that was adopted in November of 2019. What I'm going to do here is just quickly go through the original existing layout as approved, and then kind of show the differences. So the original layout consisted of 3 units, and it's easier to see a little graphically. The central unit here was, I believe, 3-story apartments. I don't know if we never saw the final plans, but multi-story apartments surrounded by 13 commercial lots abutting Gayfer Road, Fairhope Avenue, and Highway 181, with the portion to the north, in what in essence was our deprecated R3 size residential, single-family residential lots. And to show the proposed unit layout, still 3 units. The proportions are different. I will look at Unit 1, 12 instead of 13 commercial units. Unit 2, where the apartments were, is now being proposed as, and it, again, easier to see with a graphic. These are duplex and triplex rental units. There's a similar project at the corner of Battles Road and Section. So the density is R3 instead of R5. We did have some concerns with what was originally proposed as R5 density with this type of development. This is the same, they're limited to the same number as what was approved in the previous apartments. As you can see, the 12 units for Unit 1, and then Unit 3 is also approved as R3 density, but is restricted to assisted living, nursing care facilities. The proposed land use, this gets into some of the details, how that's laid out, some of the guiding principles within the PUD that I'm putting here for reference in case there's questions, but I'm not going to read through all of the charts. There was some questions, Planning Commission, this did go through, take a couple of months to get through. I think I've addressed some of these notes, but wanted to show you just some of the process that happened there. You know, the sidewalks were noted that they were not installed on Highway 81. The roads were private, so sidewalks might not be installed. The development team has come back, and sidewalks are internal with each phase, connecting all the commercial units provided around the perimeter. There was no, as a PUD requires, is some form development, how our building's going to look when the immediate desire of the development is the central location, the duplex and triplexes, and future development for commercial. So we don't know what those 12 commercial units are going to be, so how do you guide that development in the future? And there have been some architectural guidelines put in place within the PUD that will help those develop, including where they're sited on the site, some of the consistent building materials. And then there was also, on the northern edge of the property, there was some concern from that development. It is pushed as close as it was to that development. There was a buffer. It's hard to see on the upper image here, so I've zoomed in on just a section on the lower image. It's 45-foot combined setback and buffer with a sidewalk that will connect Gayfer Avenue and Fairhope Avenue, so that will be accessible to the public.
Which side is that on?
That's
East
on the
and west
north side. I'll get back to, that is, if you're looking here, that's on the northern portion of this image. I'm sorry, the western upper portion of the image.
Western side of the property.
That's correct. The staff recommendation consisted of 5. The highlighted one was added at Planning Commission. The 5 conditions of approval. Master drainage plan shall be prepared for the entire site and included with initial subdivision application that creates units 1 through 3. The City of Fairhope site plan review shall be mandatory for each lot within units 1 through 3. The City of Fairhope subdivision regulations shall be required for the creation of all lots and units within the clump PUD. A 20-foot green space and tree preservation strip shall be provided along Highway 181. That mirrors what a lot of our requirements are on important roads within the city. And finally, the Unit 2 will require 20% green space as shown, provided retention and detention shall not encroach into required green space other than those methods approved by the City of Fairhope subdivision regulations and/or is approved during the MOP or site plan review. The Planning Commission did add one condition, construction of sidewalks shall be done at the time of development of the internal roadways. The Planning Commission did hear this and made a unanimous recommendation to approve. That recommendation comes to the City Council for final decisions. That vote was 7 yeses and 0 nos. And I'll be happy to answer any questions, or we do have Scott Hutchinson with Goodwin Mills here as well.
So on the phase 3, describe their intent for that? It's pretty nondescript there.
And
And
I
council,
will
I
say
want to remind
this,
you, when we approve PUDs, we can specify with great detail what we would like to see there if we choose to.
so I don't think it's fair to say it's Phase 3, it's a Unit 3,
I'm
so
sorry, Unit 3.
chronologically.
Unit 3. I'm
Yes.
sorry. That's the wrong word.
There is in the site plan here, there is a restriction. Let's see if we can get to where we can see this. So Unit 3 in the table calls out a footnote, and it is restricted to, and I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses on, so reading this on this screen is a challenge. The letter C on the end of the notes, the allowed use for Unit 3, Lot 1, which there's only one lot in Unit 3, shall be limited to convalescent nursing or assisted living home. It is using density of R3 and allowed uses in R3 other than that condition. So R3 might have multifamily, but they're restricting that use to those three, and we'll look at that density of R3.
And then all the green space requirements that would apply to R3 would be applied to Unit 3? Is that the way I would understand that then?
Yes, sir, there
Does that need
is.
to be explicitly stated, or?
We cover that, so in a lot of PUDs, we'd love to see it fully developed. Sometimes that's not a reality, if they're a key portion of the PUD that a developer wants to do first. So what you've seen us do here is make a mandate of MOP and site plan review, which might not otherwise be triggered. And the development side has agreed to that. So we will address those things when each commercial unit and Unit 3 will come back through site plan and MOP.
I guess I would just rather be certain of what we don't want or do want before they go through the efforts of spending the money to design. And I'm not saying I'm opposed to anything or for anything. It just seems, whenever you get these things that are not fully defined, and then you get down the road 6 months and they say, we want to do this, or in a year, and then we say no, well, why didn't you tell me a year ago? Well, we didn't know what you wanted to do with it a year ago.
Right.
And
that's when you're looking at a blank slate, it's hard to judge that. But you are correct. This is a PUD and it's a negotiation. Each project is unique and has its own zoning, so anything is on the table for discussion.
What's the green space regulation on the R3 for a MOP?
It depends on the density. So if it's commercial, you're limited to 10%. But then it's based on your unit per acre and ranges anywhere from 10 to 25%. So that's where when we look at the MOP, we'll look at the density being proposed then and can address it with appropriate green space.
Are they going to try to smear green space over the entire PUD among the 3 units?
That will be handled individually. That was the footnote on the condition for Unit 2. That's kind of, there's a challenge there. They're allowed up to the units provided in the PUD, but green space and drainage and all of those other things sometimes collide. So we want to make sure in that unit, when there's at least some semblance of a plan, we can judge what the density is, what green space is going to be provided. It's just hard to do that when there's a blank lot. It's feasible to mandate a 20% green space. We don't know if they're going to come in with one building and might provide 40% down the road. If it's a 3-story building, that density is going to be confined to a small space on the area. There's also wetlands within that unit too that's going to limit. There is formal wetlands, before I use that word.
Yeah, they're not, high quality like that, they're farm field type.
Okay. And I do want to point out that a lot of the more technical reviews will happen during that MOP process and/or the subdivision phases, so there'll be many steps after this PUD, if approved as an amendment, I believe the first step will have to carve out those units, 1 through 3, and potentially even the other lots within Unit 1 if they want to do that at one time. And then each one will have its own site plan and MOP review. So this is potentially 15 more reviews, 16 counting the subdivision, that we'll be looking at on this project through the future.
I guess I was just inclined to put some kind of requirement on Unit 3. It just doesn't, Unit 3 doesn't seem to have too many, and I know we're not voting on it tonight, but I just, I don't think we're voting on it tonight, but Unit 3 is just, seems to be out there. Every time I've ever seen us leave something just completely wide open, and it's going to go to the highest use possible. And in fairness to the developer, I don't know if we're thinking that, but you know, there's a lot to digest tonight as well. Anybody else have any similar thoughts about it?
It's restricted to a nursing home or assisted living facility, right?
I thought that's what are we speaking on that one?
Yeah.
That's the portion, so, and we
And
did,
it has to come back for site plan review and MOP.
and a lot of the connectivity issues there, because PUD, it's supposed to be unique, and how that's connected to the rest of the site instead of standalone. So there is another footnote on the connectivity being provided. We don't have a layout of that, but at least in 3 points here, there will be sidewalks connecting to the existing network. The buffer, a 45-foot buffer to the west is also abutting that section, but I believe Scott may be able to help with that concern.
Todd, what's the total number of units that were in the former unit, overuse of the word unit, I don't know what to call that,
Yes.
residences maybe, total in the old Unit 2 and 3 compared to what looks like would just be the Unit 2 now?
Sure. Scott Hutchinson, Goodwin Mills Kaywood, by the way. The previous PUD, the current PUD that's approved, the residential units were comprised of the single family, the small little single family lots, and then the multifamily that Hunter mentioned, the 3-story traditional apartment complex units. That was 231 plus 77 combining to total 308. That's what's out there now. Well, that's what's currently approved. What we're proposing is 233 units that you see on Unit 2. And those will not be the traditional apartment complexes. They will be the triplexes, duplexes. They look exactly like a larger home when you ride through. If you've been through Old Battles Place, you'll see the same product we're talking about. Looks just like, they look like single-family homes, but they're duplexes and triplexes.
These going to be for rent or for sale?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I can get you the answer, but I just don't know.
So just excuse me, Scott, just to
Uh-huh.
clarify, I'm a little confused. Is this senior living? I'm gonna ask that again.
No, let's talk about that. The Unit 3, the whole site is, no, it's not senior living.
Okay, so when it first was presented, it was presented to me, I took it, excuse me, Lord, I took it as this whole thing was for senior living,
No.
for our elderly.
No.
Okay,
No.
I'm back on page now.
Sure,
Because I was
sure.
so confounded.
The-
Okay.
The whole thing being a PUD is a tool that we can use, the city can use to accomplish commercial, residential, different uses
I understand.
in one property. So this is just regular retail, nothing to do with assisted living along 181 and Fairhope Avenue, just regular homes.
Okay.
And then Unit 3, though, is that focus. I really think it is restrictive. I mean, we could put more items on it, but right now it's restricted to a density of R3 and a use of convalescent or assisted living, nursing home type uses. So, I mean, we're willing to go with that, and then it's got all the normal setbacks. We do have an additional, let me just kind of back up, and I came to do a presentation, and now I just started by answering questions. So let me just say that what you have before you, I really think with Hunter and his staff's input, we have a much better product than what's currently out there. We're not asking for more density. Quite honestly, we're asking for less density, and the overall product, I think, is a lot better. If you look along that west side, we are now a 45-foot, not just setback, but a 45-foot buffer setback. So you can't encroach into it with anything other than a sidewalk in that area. We've added sidewalks on 181, additional sidewalks throughout the whole site. Really, the amount of commercial lots is less than what's currently approved out there right now. So the overall change from R5 to the majority of it's R3 now. So just that right there is a big change in density to the less dense.
So Scott, the previous had 231 and 77, that was units 2 and 3, for a total of 308. And currently, the new proposal has 233, which is a reduction of 75, but it doesn't take into account any units that would be in the assisted living.
Correct. In the assisted living, though, the most you could have, if you just went straight on by the density, the most you could have would be, is R3, forgive me, is it 5 units per acre?
That's what I was looking for.
We did
this math.
Yeah.
It was very close to what was approved in the current PUD.
Yeah, 5 units per acre, which would put you at 50 units there. And these are, they're not necessarily like residential units, but you're limited to 50 units there. So you still, even if you add that back, you're still less.
Still less. I think you can make an argument that your traffic would be much less in an assisted living facility. I've got to assume there's probably less vehicles there, although you may, I don't know, you have a lot of employees.
That's a wash.
And visitors, is it? Traffic studies show it's a wash?
Well, trip, as we found out recently, trip generation for apartments are much less than single family or even potentially duplexes. So I think it will be a wash.
And I think it's, again, important to note that the council has quite a few more cracks at this. So we self-imposed the requirement that every site plan has to come back to the city. And that, as you know, that's a 2-step process. It goes to planning commission, and then hopefully soon thereafter goes to council, not 4 months like this one is, but it goes to the council. So you have many more shots at alleviate your fears of Unit 3 being more of a blank page. We'd have to come in with a site plan that meets the basic requirements of the PUD, and it will have to pass the staff and the plan commission approval before it even gets to you for your approval. So, I know you know that.
Well, no, but it's good. I'm glad you say it, because how many times do we get to the final approval, which we're authorized to vote yes or no, and then it doesn't go the way they want it to go, and we're the bad guys because we changed something. Although that was the agreement right up front, and somebody like you stated that very thing. You get all the way to that last thing and say, we don't like that plan, change it. Well, why didn't you tell me a year ago? I spent all this money on it.
I understand.
Just they keep that in mind.
I will. So I'll answer any questions you have. If there's public comments and there's questions I need to answer, I'll be glad to answer it.
Okay. Y'all have any questions right now before we open up the public hearing?
No, sir.
No, I'll wait.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Scott. We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Would somebody like to speak to this subject? please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. You'll be given 3 minutes. Okay, I'll close the public hearing, and we'll let this lay over until the next council meeting. Now, before we go any further on the agenda, I overlooked something trying to reduce council comments. I overlooked something really big. So we have 20% of the fire department here, and they have a presentation to make to the city. So, Mayor, if you'll meet me in front, we'll let them make that presentation so they can get out of here.
I was wondering why they were sitting back there. Yeah, I was wondering why. I knew he had said something special. Soccer got you off track. Yes, soccer. Man, I mean, goodness. Yeah, just from the beginning, right? Yeah. Kind of like so I was confused. So I was confused by that too. But there's another one.
It looks like there's another one right back there.
That's what and then they said this one, so I got a little.
Council Mayor, appreciate you giving me just a couple of minutes. At this time, it's our pleasure to give you the $100,000 that we owe you for the new engine. So.
Hey, guys.
We need real big smiles. That check's big.
Might be happens when we made out the Fairhope soccer club right now.
Hey, we'll take it. Like an indoor facility. You want 20% of it?
Go out and down smile.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate it very much. Barbecue and boats and soccer.
I did have a call from
I texted.
I did, yeah. That's what's taking.
That's what I said. Like, I'm
That's why I went to the Shaper Building.
offer that up.
All right. We will now move on to agenda item 6 of 30. This is the final adoption of an ordinance of annexation. Mark William Mathias and Sherry Dawn Mathias property located at 103 Allsway Court in Fairhope, Alabama. You see the tax parcel there. This was introduced at the March 22nd, 2021 City Council meeting. I will entertain a motion for final adoption.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. Clerk, will you call the question, please?
Council President?
Aye.
Place 2?
Aye.
Place 3?
Aye.
Place 4?
Aye.
Place 5?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Thank you, council. Item number 7 is a resolution that Mayor Sullivan is hereby authorized to execute all required agreements between the City of Fairhope and the United States Department of Agriculture, Natural Resources Conservation Service for an emergency watershed protection program for Hurricane Sally storm damage. Total approved budget is $859,500. $652,125 are 75%, of which is NRCS's contribution of the construction cost, and $217,375, representing 25%, is the city's contribution. And in-kind and technical services from the technical assistant funds up to a maximum of $65,212.50, limited to 7.5% of the $869,500. The projects included are Quail Creek, Fairwood Drive, 204, 206, 252, and 254 North Summit Street. Mr. Johnson?
In respect to time, I'll also kind of hit the companion one of 12 or 13. As you know, we discussed this at the work session 2 weeks ago. This is a grant that they selected 3 of 7 projects that we had sites identified that were in jeopardy and were further damaged by the events of Hurricane Sally. The key thing to remember is what we're asking tonight is to authorize the mayor to execute the necessary documents to keep this moving forward. And the later agenda item is to get the engineering underway for Quail Creek. It's the smallest of the jobs, and I think I'd get an amen from Bobby Hall. He got hammered again this weekend on the Saturday morning rains, and this is going to be addressing that issue, channel issue, as well as the cart path there between holes number 2 and 3. Any questions?
He got hammered again?
By rainfall. We had about 4 to
Okay.
6 inches in about an hour and a half period of time, so.
Just need a clarification there.
That was a drainage term,
Be a little
sorry.
humor tonight. Council, any questions for Mr. Johnson? Okay, I'll
Thank you.
entertain a motion to authorize the
So
mayor
moved.
to execute all the documents. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the resolution, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, thank you, council. Item 8 is a resolution. The city council approves the selection of Thompson Engineering to perform professional engineering services for a new transmission line on County Road 33 for the water department. And hereby authorizes Mayor Sullivan to negotiate a fee schedule and establish a not-to-exceed limit with the firm. I believe Jason briefed us on the work session, or during the work session on this item. You have any questions for Jason? Okay, and this amount will come back for final approval, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the selection.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. All right, the motion carries. Thank you, council. Item 9 is a resolution. The City Council approves the selection of Vision Technology Solutions doing business as Vision Internet providers to perform professional services for website design and management, and hereby authorizes Mayor Sullivan to negotiate a fee schedule and establish a not-to-exceed limit with this firm. Jeff, got a minute or so on this?
Be careful. Be careful.
No, that is.
And somebody left some glasses. I've got 20 pages of notes on this, so just bear with me. This is just to approve Vision Internet, to our current provider, another year extension, so we can renew for the 2021-22 year.
I guess I never saw anything concerning the cost of this. Was it the same price? Is it just an extension?
It's just an extension. It's for the mayor to approve them as the professional service.
Oh, we have to select them and then
Right,
go back
exactly.
on the price again, yeah.
The
Love that-
price
love
stays the
that
same.
law. Okay, all right. Any questions for Jeff, council?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the selection then.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. All right, motion carries. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, council. Item 10 is a resolution. The city council approves the selection of Dewberry Engineering to perform professional engineering services for Larry Newton lift station replacement for the water department, and hereby authorizes the mayor to negotiate a fee schedule and establish a not-to-exceed limit with this firm. And this was also covered by Jason during the work session. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the selection.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. I'll just remind everyone that she'll come back with a fee schedule that can be approved at a later date. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. Thank you, council. Item 11 is a resolution. The city council approves the selection of Payne Management, doing business as Payne Pipeline Services, to perform professional consulting services for natural gas pipeline distribution compliance for a 3-year contract with a not-to-exceed amount of $53,160 per year, and authorizes the mayor to execute the contract. This is for Payne's pipeline compliance system package to meet applicable requirements at the 40 CFR Part 192. Mr. Boyette briefed us during the work session. Do you have any questions for him?
I do. One question. A lot of our money is coming in mailing, and it's snail mail, it's paper. What, are we not moving forward?
Well, it's a requirement. It's a federal requirement that we
That
have
it
to
has to
adhere
be
to. We have
notified.
tried with every
Okay.
fiber of our being to
Okay.
outsource that differently.
Right, I just
But
asking, 'cause-
unfortunately, the regulations are about 20 years behind.
Okay.
So we're
Yeah, I
We're
was just
subject to the
reading-
regulation at this
Very
point.
good,
Yes,
that's,
sir.
I'm just making sure, I mean.
The
yeah.
printing lobby probably
Printing,
is.
yeah, right.
Well,
okay.
Councilman Martin, the reason they do that is because it's verification that you've notified everybody along your pipeline area.
Okay.
So if it
I-
was
I
by
just-
email or something like that, you couldn't verify. And
Very
they do
good.
it by address.
I'm sure other people had that question, you know.
Well, you know, it seems like, and I know they won't, because if they would allow people to maybe opt out of receiving that, and then, didn't you have a record? This person opted out and chose to, and they provided an email address, you know, saving the city tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, that's all I'm asking.
I share in your frustration, but they don't want to hear it.
Thank you, thank you.
I believe you. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Wes. Any other questions?
No.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the selection of Payne Management.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right. Item number 12, motion passes. Item number 12 is a resolution, the City Council approves the selection of Sawgrass Consulting for professional survey and engineering services for 3 natural resources and conservation services grants for the emergency watershed protection projects, and hereby authorizes the mayor to execute a contract for project number 1 at Quail Creek with a total unbudgeted cost of $23,000 for professional service fees, and approves the city's unbudgeted match of $34,987.50 based on estimates. So Richard, the unbudgeted match of roughly $35,000, that would be for the construction?
That would be construction plus what the fees they reimburse us on engineer wouldn't cover. Remember, they cap engineering fees at 7.5% of construction.
Okay.
So they do 25, 75 on construction and give you a flat 7.5% of total construction toward engineering. So I know those numbers look funny.
Yeah, the numbers look
So-
funny. It's not your typical 80-20, 75-25.
So based upon the budget narrative that you have in your packet, if the project came in exactly at the predicted price, that would be the cost out of the city's pocket of basically a $98,000 project. So it's really more of about a 30-70 in that case.
Okay, very good. That explains it.
Thank you.
Questions, council? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the selection.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Thank you, council. Item 13 is a resolution that the mayor is hereby authorized to execute a contract with O'Donnell and Associates to perform professional geologic consulting services for the new well number 11 at well field number 3 for the water department with a not-to-exceed amount of $50,000. Also described in the work session. Does anybody have any questions for Jason? I'll entertain a motion to authorize the mayor to execute the contract then.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I guess, why is there a not-to-exceed amount of $50,000 if we've already selected them? What's that based on, Jason? Just to repeat it, usually they give a fixed amount. Why is there a not-to-exceed amount? They don't know what they're going to get into yet, or,
That's correct.
so it could be less?
Depends on the monitoring well that they do, how deep
Right.
and how long.
So that cuts down on the change orders?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I'd bet Kevin a steak dinner would come in at $50,000, but they'll do it for $49,999 a spike.
You buy mine if it's $49.99?
Do what?
You buy mine if it's $49.99? I might can.
All right, thank you, Jason. All right, I will entertain a motion to authorize the mayor to execute the contract.
So
We have a
moved.
motion and a second.
I do? Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Thank you, Lisa. Item 14 is a resolution, the City of Fairhope vote to purchase a 46 kilovolt line, work the materials and related inventory for the substation upgrade projects, and authorizes procurement without formal bid based on the option allowed by the Code of Alabama. This has already been bid. The total estimated cost per Stewart Engineering will be $591,000. I believe that Jeremy gave us detail on this in the work session. Do you have any further questions for him? I believe you said it might be less, right?
Should be left with the property.
Okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion to vote for the purchase.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. Okay, the motion carries. Thank you, council. Item 15 is a resolution, the City of Fairhope vote to procure a 2022 All-Tech Model AM55 bucket truck for the electric department. The equipment is available for direct procurement through the Sourcewell Purchasing Co-op, which has been nationally bid and therefore does not have to be let out for bid. The cost will be $282,627. And I'll just point out that this would have, this is an unbudgeted item, but we have to get ahead. We have to order this, say, a year in advance, and he will put this in his, I think it's too late to put it in the 22 budget, but it won't be put in the 22 budget, right? We spend it now, all right?
We won't pay for the 22.
Oh, it'll be, so we will budget for 2022 and pay for it in 2022. Okay. All right, thank you for that. All right, council, I'll entertain a motion to procure the bucket truck.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. Item 16, I want to kind of alter this a little bit. I would say, what did we say after the meeting, after the work session, Lisa? I wanted to just bump that up to say 20,000, that with a cost not to exceed 20,000.
Approximately.
Well, approximately, if we find one that we don't have to be bid, if we can't get this one to say, with an approximate cost of $20,000. So if y'all make that change. All right, we have a motion to procure the 6-passenger and wheelchair ADA-approved shuttle for the Community Affairs Department.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All right. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. All right, motion carries. Thank you, council. Item 17 is a resolution that the compensation and job classification plan along with the grade order sheet be amended and approved to add a senior accountant position, a grade 26S, and delete the finance manager position at a grade 28S, and the job descriptions and pay grades for the same. Ms. Creech?
Yes, I have a vacancy that's in the finance manager position, and I just want to move it, change it to a senior accountant and downgrade that job pay. I looked at some other cities, and that's very similar to what you would see in some other cities. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions for Ms. Creech? Okay. Hearing no questions, I'll entertain a resolution to amend the job classification plan along with the grade order sheet.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. Thank you, council. Item 18 is a resolution. The City of Fairhope hereby amends the budget for the FY 2020 to 2021 as recommended to change the fire department community grants revenue from $200,000 to $100,000 and the impact fee funding from $331,000 to $417,157, and authorizes the city treasurer to make the necessary changes. So as mentioned in the work session, we're only requiring them to pay the $100,000, which they gave the mock check of just a few minutes ago. And then we are increasing the impact fee spending from $331,000 to $417,157, which would allow us to deplete the funds that are required to be spent this fiscal year. I get that right, Kim? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to amend the budget as
Second.
suggested. I heard a motion. Do I hear a second?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I heard a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. Okay, motion carries. Item 19 is a resolution that the City of Fairhope accepts and approves the proposed name of Honor Lane pursuant to the city's road name change petition at the request of Alan Beck, President of the Rock Creek Property Owners Association, and Stephen Harris, Rock Creek General Manager. Don't know a lot about this, other than I believe it was called Honors Lane, Honours, and I know that that was the former owners of the golf course there, Honors Golf, and they want it to be changed to Honor Lane. There is a petition, I guess. I'm just curious as to why, and Lynn, will you answer that for us? You're no stranger to that podium.
No, it's like old home week. No, as you know, Honors sold the golf course to Golf Co. Last August, and Honors Lane was named after Honors Golf Company. Since they're no longer there, they don't have a presence, we wanted to change the name of the street, but it's a twofold project. We want it as Honor Lane because what we would like to do is we will ask for the permit to plant trees there that were taken down during Sally. We lost every single tree along that section of road at the golf course. And we're going to plant trees in honor of residents of Rock Creek who have gone above and beyond service to Rock Creek and/or family members who are deceased. And those trees will be planted with a plaque in their memory. So that's why we want it as Honor Lane.
Very cool. Any questions for Ms. Mazur?
So everybody's going to have to change their address on every...
There's nobody there with an address.
Okay.
No.
All right. Good deal. That sounds good.
Okay. All right, thank you, Lynn. I'll entertain a motion to approve the proposed name change. Second. A motion, did I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the name change, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries, thank you. Item number 20 is a resolution. City Council hereby approves and authorizes the Fairhope Arts and Crafts Festival Foundation for this year's festival to use the area in front of the Welcome Center for the artist breakfast and registration, and use of the grassy area by the clock for their media tent, and use of the green space adjacent to the recreation center for the shuttle service. I'll entertain a motion to approve and authorize the use.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. You ladies would like to speak to this?
Nothing?
You got to stick around to the end now.
If I'm not an artist, can I come eat breakfast?
You can.
Absolutely.
We want to see you there.
Make sure.
That's right. It's April 30, May 1, May 2, so everybody show up, okay? It's going to happen.
All right.
Thank
Very
you.
good. Well, we haven't voted yet. We just had a motion and a second. It may still be defeated, so.
No jinxes.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. Thank you. Feel better now? Item 21 is a resolution. The City Council hereby approves and adopts the recommendations by the Rec Board and Recreation Director Pat White for a $10 a month fee for use of the City of Fairhope Recreation Center walking track, and this fee shall take effect immediately. Mr. White, sorry we didn't get to you in the work session. I may be able to cover some of this. I think that when the Rec Board considered making this recommendation to the council, it was thought that, you know, there's an indoor track and people are using it, and they've been using it for free, and people could, you know, they could walk outdoors for free. But we have a pool that people use for exercise, and, you know, I guess you could say you could swim maybe in the bay, but the people choose to swim in the pool and they pay, and no matter what form of exercise you choose, if you use the rec center, people are paying to use it. I think they just recommended that these walkers be asked to pay to use the facility like everybody else are.
Yeah,
It's whether they're
I
lifting
assume
weights.
they already were.
Yeah.
No, whether they're working out or walking.
That's what I thought too, but they're not.
So what, is it $10 a month for your general rec membership fee, or is it more than that? I mean, should they just pay the same rate as everybody
This is a
else?
standalone membership just for the walking track.
What would be a rec center membership per month?
I'd have to look that up,
I
I'm
think
not
it's
sure.
like- Is it $40?
It's not much.
Yeah, I think it's about $40.
$40 a month. So it's a reduced rate if that's all they're doing.
Yeah, and the kids that come in to play have to pay $5 to play basketball if they're not a member.
Well, you can't even, you weren't allowed to do that right now.
Well,
because of
COVID, I'm just saying
yeah.
pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
for
to show
instance.
up with a buddy to play basketball, you have to pay $5.
This also helps us with security and contact tracing, so we
Right.
know who's in the building, because they flash a badge. They'll have a membership badge they flash when they come in, so we know who's in the building at all times.
Right,
Correct.
not a problem.
Will it designate their walking track only?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the recommendation from the rec board and the director for the fee to be used for the walking track.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the recommendation, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. All right, motion carries. Item 22 is a resolution. The city council hereby approves and adopts the recommendation to purchase of the scoreboard and a play clock at WC Majors Stadium. The rec board, I've noticed I didn't say football stadium because that's sometimes used for soccer, right? The rec board will contact the Fairhope Booster Club and the school clubs for financial assistance to make this purchase, and I assume they'll come back to us with a recommendation of cost, so, but we will, I'll entertain a motion to approve and adopt the recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. Okay, motion carries. Thank you, council. Item 23 is a resolution. The city council hereby approves and adopts the city of Fairhope's footwear policy as presented. That will help provide a healthy and safe working environment for all city employees. The policy shall take place immediately. Is Travis here to speak to that?
I can
Can you
address it.
want
I
to speak to
can.
that real quick, Mayor?
So there was already a policy in place when I took office to purchase footwear for the employees. And we just wanted to make that, a policy in writing because it was just kind of a gentleman's agreement that everybody got a pair of boots. They got $140 credit towards the boots and that they could get one pair a year. But there has been some folks who've kind of worked the system and have been getting maybe 2 pair a year. And so we dropped that price to $120 a year. Which seems to be kind of a good average price towards the cost of a pair of boots, and have put some policies in place to ensure that unless you are approved, you only get 1 pair of boots a year. We did allow for sanitation employees to get 2 because they're up and down on trucks so much that, we felt like they needed to. With my approval, they'll be able to do that.
Kind of crazy question, but this is required in my work when we're given money by the government to purchase safety
Right.
shoes. They have to be American-made. Is there any requirement for that?
We did not say that. I mean, it's certainly something we could put in the policy. I would have to go back and check to see where they're ordering from now, if they're American-made or not.
Yeah, I don't know that we want to do that, but I thought I'd ask.
Okay, I can check on it and see. I do think it's a good thing for us to do to provide the, footwear for safety purposes, but again, I just don't want it to be taken advantage of. We just wanted a policy in writing.
Yeah, and my only hesitation of putting some kind of further restriction on there is I know that a lot of things are hard to find right now. You put something like that on there and they may not be able to find them.
And there have been quite a few of the boot orders, they've been back ordered for that reason, just manufacturers. So I know some of the employees have complained about that. But it is a budgeted item. We budgeted under uniforms for them to receive these boots.
Okay. All right, council, can I get a motion to authorize or adopt the footwear policy as presented?
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. All right, motion carries. Item 24 is a resolution. The city council hereby authorizes and ratifies actions by the council president to purchase real property on Morphe Avenue necessary for our utility infrastructure improvements with execution of all related documents and agreements for the purchase. Council, I'll just say I know that you've all been made aware through various channels of this property. We don't own it yet, so I don't think, since we're still in a competitive environment, we have to reveal it. But to know that the initial offer made by the city was accepted, and we would expect to close on that. I've talked to the city treasurer, and we do have funds available for this purchase. And not only do we have funds available, but it should save us quite a bit of money if we make this purchase. Any questions? Okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion to.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to authorize me to execute all the documents in related to the purchase. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. Thank you, council. Item 25 is a resolution that the city council hereby approves and adopts the Mobile Bay Spring Classic Field Use Agreement for the Fairhope Soccer Complex from April 23rd, 2021 through April 25th, 2021. I will entertain a motion to accept the agreement as presented.
I make a motion, we use the October fee schedule, just because I don't think these fees are egregious or unreasonable by any stretch. I just feel like the conversations tonight, that this was limited time, and I don't think it would hurt anybody to go with the old schedule, and it'd be a few $1,000s less for the city, but I think it would go a long way towards goodwill to just work out an agreement that everybody's involved in, and maybe attempts were made to get people to the table, but spring break and everything, I just think it was, it seemed apparent tonight to me that maybe they didn't feel that they had enough notice what the schedule, or what the fee schedule was going to be. And I know it's not a whole lot of money, but it just seems like it would be goodwill, so.
And just for the record, that was $450, Pat?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did that, just for clarification, would that have fit the prior field use agreement at $425? Is that, because I get a little confused at what was new, because there was a lot of new proposals and what was maybe in place in the fall. So, for instance, was the field lining in place in the fall?
Yes, per the temporary resolution that you guys passed before the fall tournament, the $20 per team was in play.
So basically the fees that I discussed with
Correct.
Bob up here.
They were waived by me for the fall tournament because I was being informed that we were separating the finances and the books and everything. We never got to that point.
So the $25.75, if we went under those old rules, I got the $900 for the field lining, the $1,000, which is the half price rate based on 100 teams, and $675 field, which is a half price rate. That came out to $25.75. If we were going under the existing, and I'm going to get to you, Marcus, if we were under the existing field use agreement, that would have been the fees.
Yes, sir.
I just want to clarify that as well. If you wanted to go back in time and see what.
It's not the 450, it's the 450 plus.
Yeah, well, it's really the number, if you went to the field use agreement and followed it, giving them the benefit of the doubt and giving them the full nonprofit rate, it's $25.75.
For the whole event, not per day, right?
Under the original
For the whole
agreement,
the whole day.
there was a
The
double
whole-
discount on the field usage.
Assuming, to Bob's point earlier, assuming that the field lining is $900, if it didn't need to be lined, there wouldn't be a $900.
We've been operating under $12.50 per field because they got the double discount, which meant they paid 25% of the $50. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Basically got
But-
cut in half
but
twice.
My problem with the discount, even under the old agreement, is that, well, never mind. That's correct. It is a nonprofit. That's nonprofit status. Marcus, what were you going to say?
Yeah, under the old agreement too, there's no issue with regard to concessions. For example, when Foley, you looked at the Foley agreements, Foley takes 100% of all the concessions down there, and the $3,000 a day. They don't let anybody else take the concessions. It's 100% for Foley. You've offered them that. There's also a gate fee, which is negotiated in Auburn and Foley. You give them 100% of that. This half price rate that we're talking about, that was a proposal under a contract for services where all proceeds, we're trying to get it under the bid limits where they were going to be able to run rec for this field use only, just an amount minus a half percentage or whatever the percentage was, and then everything else went to rec. And 100% of the proceeds from the tournaments and the concessions at the tournaments were all going to rec. The last version of the financials we got showed that 100% of the money was actually going into the corporate side of it and not into rec. So I think you're on the right path. with our old agreement does not fit with what we're doing at all, what we're trying to do now. And you look at this too, all of 2019, they paid zero, 2018, they paid zero, 2017, zero, and they're making six figures, good six figures off of it. So you're not being unreasonable with what you're doing.
I don't
And
think
it's
the fees
also-
are
it's also
unreasonable. I
completely
really
different.
don't. I don't know. I don't think the fees are unreasonable at all.
We're allowing some conversation. He had a motion, but see, I was trying to get you to clarify that motion as to
Yeah,
what that was
and that's kind of what I want to make sure, because if the motion is, I think the $5,000 fee in a vacuum is reasonable. I truly do. I think there's some extenuating circumstances, you know, I know we've been working on it for 2 years. I was involved on it when it first started, and there was a lot of drama that came along with it, with dealing with it at that point in time. But I think, all things being considered, I don't think it's unreasonable to offer them for this tournament the $5,000 discounted at the nonprofit rate for a $2,500.
Yeah, well, if you go to the older agreement.
25.75, whatever it is. And then, with the understanding that between now and the next big tournament, there will be a meeting of the minds to figure out exactly what's going in the rec account, what's going in the academy account, and exactly what we're going to do going forward.
Well, we're going to get the whole field use agreement, you know,
For everybody.
schedule for everybody.
Yeah, because
We knew we didn't have
these
time,
questions.
and we knew that this was our last meeting before the tournament.
Sure, absolutely. And again, I don't think, based on what we know about other facilities, and I've been looking into this for baseball, because Daphne hosts a tournament almost every weekend.
Every weekend.
And is making a killing off of it.
Yes, but we have to set it up.
And so, but if Jimmy, if that's what your motion is, to enforce the other agreement as written, which would equal the 25.75.
That's my motion.
So I have a
I'll second
question.
that motion.
So is that, in that agreement, that's the old franchise agreement, correct?
No, that's the.
No, it's the old
special.
field use agreement.
It's just a field use agreement.
Correct.
Okay.
But it's
So
given a
so instead of,
instead of
5,000,
it's
it's
given
splitting
a
that in half.
one discount, not a double
Yeah.
discount.
Right.
Yeah, that's a win-win.
And it's saying that,
Until we
hey,
get to
the
where we
fees
are.
are not unreasonable, but there was a communication breakdown. And
If,
That would
whether that
be-
was on us or not on us or shared,
Okay, you got a motion at 25.75?
that's my
I'll
motion.
second it.
All right, I got a motion and a second. Now, any further discussion?
Let's just resolve this before it
I
comes
think
up
it's a
again
good,
next year.
I think it's a good compromise
Yeah.
tonight.
It's a
I'm gonna
win-win.
support it. Any other discussion? Okay. Have a motion and a second at 25.75 for the three-day tournament. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. Thank you. Thank you for all the comments as well, and I know this is a process and it's not always fun. Trust us, it is no fun for us. It is not.
I know, and we spent an hour and 10 minutes talking about it, so thank you for the time. I really appreciate everybody's just willingness to listen to us. So
We appreciate what y'all
Yeah,
do.
well, thank you,
Yeah.
as well as what y'all do as well, so,
Okay.
thanks, everyone.
Thank y'all.
Item 26 is the request of Bryant Whelan, Executive Director of the Eastern Shore Art Association, doing business as Eastern Shore Art Center, requesting the use and closure of Oak Street between Section and Bancroft Streets for their White Linen Night Gala event, and permission to serve alcohol during this event. Officer Nolte, is there any reason that we should deny this request? Yes. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to grant this request.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to grant this request. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. All right, motion carries. Item 27 is a request of Casey Calloway, a Mobile Baykeeper, requesting permission to block the streets and use the park on the south end of Pier, North Beach Road, Bayfront Park Pier, and the fountain area for the 2021 Publix Grandman Triathlon on May 22nd, 2021. On May 21st, to close the Rose Garden no later than 5 p.m. And on May 22nd, close the road entering North Bayfront Park from 5 a.m. until the last racer finishes. The use of the barricades and permission to serve beer on the South Beach Park with all appropriate security after the race. And also request permission to block the streets, North Mobile Street, North Beach Road, use of the park on the south end of the pier, and use of the barricades for the Jubilee Kids Triathlon on May 23rd, 2021, from 6:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. On the May 21st, to close the Rose Garden no later than 7 p.m. And on May 22nd, close the road entering North Bayfront Park from 5 a.m. until the last racer finishes. So just for clarification, this says permission to serve beer on South Beach Park with all appropriate security after the race. So they're not including all appropriate security, right? Officer Nolte, they've applied and you guys have told them what would be required of this?
Yes, sir.
And
It's the same thing they do every year. Now, afterwards, they do keep officers over just to assist in case there's a problem, but they usually take care of that themselves.
I guess this is as good a time as any to bring this up. Now, what are you charging per hour for this, for security?
45.
Okay, and so that, I'm a little surprised. So that went up from 35 to 45, right?
30.
It went up from 30 to 45. Okay, so how do you raise those fees without any approval from the council?
Yeah, you passed an ordinance or a resolution that allows the chief to do that, and it's competitive with every other law enforcement organization in Baldwin County.
I knew it was competitive, I just want to make sure that we could do
correct.
that.
That's correct.
All right, that would be the answer to that then. Okay, you're covered then. I just want to make sure that we were doing everything. If somebody complained at all about that rate, that we were doing it according to our resolutions and ordinances. Okay, so that's including vehicles, that includes, if is that typically an off-duty officer?
Yes, sir, that's all.
And that includes the use of a police vehicle as well?
Yes.
Okay. I guess I worry if you're off-duty and you're not on official business, how do you use a city vehicle and get paid to do it? Y'all answer that?
Just safety, I guess, having the lights.
It is, and that was debated a long time ago when we talked about, private security at events and off-duty officers. I mean, there was a lot of discussion involved in that, but it's just common practice.
Is it off-duty or overtime?
It's off-duty. They're paid independently from the organizations. It is not overtime.
I haven't looked at it in a long time, Councilwoman Martin, and I would have to go back and review, if there's any issues with it. I think it's mainly a safety concern. They're as far as being able to say, I'm security, I'm in my uniform, and I got a city car here. And I think that's what the primary overriding ability was last time it was looked at years ago.
It's probably been, I would say, 10 years ago, if longer, than we looked at that off-duty officer. And it's in part of our personnel handbook. It's part of that ordinance that allows them to do that.
And there's probably maybe some state laws.
statutes,
But
but
as I
it's been so
thought
long, I
about
can't
this,
remember.
and I had someone involved with this ask me about the fee, they asked the question, well, this person's off-duty, they're using City of Fairhope property to make money off-duty. I think we better look at it. Okay. That notwithstanding, I will entertain a motion to grant this request.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. Well, now, public participation. Do you have anything else to bring forth before the council? I think we only have one member of the public left, and I'm not so sure he's here to be a member of the public. But he's sat here long enough that he probably made enough money tonight to pay the deficit in the soccer clubs. All right, seeing no one for public participation, I'll close public participation, and I'll read a letter from the city attorney regarding an executive session. Says, as City Attorney Marcus McDowell, I hereby request the Fairhope City Council go in executive session based on Section 36-25A-7A3 to discuss pending litigation and possible settlement options regarding said pending litigation. City Attorney McDowell does hereby declare that the City Council of the City of Fairhope rise from regular City Council meeting on Monday, April 12, 2021, to go into executive session. The City Council shall be in executive session for approximately, how long are we thinking? 30 minutes. At the end of the executive session, the City Council shall return to the City Council chambers to resume the regular City Council meeting. The time is 8:22 p.m. City Council exits the dais to go into executive session. I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. Do we expect to take any action as a body when we come back? I don't think we're going to be voting on any resolutions when we come back. So if anybody's hanging around for that, we'll just come back and simply adjourn. Thank you. I will call the meeting back to order. Entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, council.